Hi, I'm Tim Donner, and welcome to our inaugural edition of the Liberty Nation TV Election 2020 Roundtable. We'll be featuring a new roundtable every week up until the election. And joining us for this inaugural edition is Graham Noble, who is our LibertyNation.com chief political correspondent, Joe Schaefer, national correspondent for LibertyNation.com, and our own legal affairs editor, Scott Cosenza. So, gentlemen, let's start today with Pocahontas, otherwise known as Pocahontas, otherwise known as Senator Elizabeth Warren, the first one on the impeachment bandwagon after the release of the Mueller report. She came out, I believe, within hours calling for impeachment proceedings to begin. Graham, let's start with you. How do you react to Elizabeth Warren's call for impeachment, and how does this affect her presidential candidacy?
Well, Tim, I think largely it's kind of a political stunt. We've now got, we have a new addition to the race now, I believe, as of yesterday or today. So we're now up to 17 or 18 contenders for the Democratic nomination. I basically just think that Senator Warren just wanted to get out ahead of everybody else in doing this. And of course, that's red meat to a large part of Warren's base, particularly because she's certainly, out there on the left of the party. So, red meat to her potential supporters. But I think it's a very perilous road to go down, and I think a lot of the leading congressional Democrats understand that.
Joe, do you think that impeachment is a winning issue for the Democrats?
No, I don't, and I don't think it's going to help Elizabeth Warren much in the Democratic primary to say this. It seems gratuitous. She's playing the Easter Bunny, handing out jelly beans to the blue crowd. She also came out, I believe, today and said she wants to wipe out student debt for everyone who went to college and universal free tuition for everybody. So this is what they have to do to play to their base. It's sort of the political equivalent of Kirsten Gillibrand going to a drag show with the drag ladies. It's bad reality TV almost, except for this is serious political issues. And I agree with Graham. If they pursued this road, it would go nowhere for the Democrats. But I'm not even sure she's sincere in what she's saying, that she really would want them to pursue this road. It's something you say to appeal to the base.
Okay, Scott, let's talk about Joe Biden, because he's entering the race this week. By all indications, he's at the head of the list, running at about 25% atop the field of what's now 18 candidates. You and I, in particular, on our podcast, The Uprising, have focused a lot on Joe Biden's candidacy. Is Joe Biden, Scott, the elixir that the Democrats need to take down Donald Trump?
Well, this is about the free press, Tim, and I mean by that the amount of press he will get for free. There are so many candidates that these media organizations can only basically talk about a limited number of them, and so many of them are kind of progressive and leftist oriented. It amounts to campaign advertisements. So I think that Joe Biden, by virtue of his status, will get the lion's share of the sort of non-progressive ink displayed. And for that reason, he's going to be that sort of top of the heap status is justified. I wanted to say something about your lead-in, Tim, when you said that Elizabeth Warren was the first to say that Trump should be impeached. As I understand it, that's not accurate. And in fact, I think it drills down on my point, which is that how these media portrayals govern our perception. I think Beto O'Rourke, who has now been cast aside like yesterday's newspaper by the mainstream legacy media, was the first of the declared candidates to say this. He should be impeached because of it. So that power they wield,
Well, I think Elizabeth Warren was the first one after the Mueller report to specifically call for impeachment. But Graham, let's talk more about Joe Biden. Here's a guy, the former vice president, who's already been on an apology tour before he ever even announces his candidacy. He apologized for what he did in the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas Supreme Court hearing. He apologized for the white guy culture. He's apologized for his creepy behavior towards women. It's not exactly roaring out of the gate to have already conducted an apology tour before you even announce for president.
Ultimately, I don't believe for a moment that he's going to end up winning the nomination. I think right now he's riding high mostly on name recognition. And there's just so many phony things about Biden's candidacy altogether, being the working man's candidate and all of this kind of stuff. I think, that there's so many, he's got so many skeletons in his closet. He actually had to have a whole new closet built. And I just think too much of that stuff is going to come back to bite him, even just in the primaries. I think there is so much that his fellow Democrats can go after that I don't see him faring too well. And I think ultimately the Democrats, even the base, is very excited about a lot of other candidates like good old Mayor Pete and, Elizabeth Warren. And of course, Bernie Sanders is right in there as well. Kamala Harris, who checks off many of the identity politics boxes as well. So I just think that there's way too much competition for Uncle Joe there. And I don't see him lasting, to be honest.
Now, Joe, Scott referred earlier to Beto O'Rourke, who's, now been supplanted as the latest media darling by Mayor Pete, the gay mayor of South Bend, Indiana, who's married to another man. And that's something that actually isn't much even included in reporting about him now, as if it's old hat somehow. But he has gotten a lot of attention because he's supposedly sort of an island of calm in a sea of chaos. He has a calming personality, seems more moderate. But the more you drill down on what Pete Buttigieg stands for, such as the abolition of the Electoral College, calling the Trump agenda an extreme right-wing agenda, people aren't interested in conservatism. Is Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete, the latest dance craze among the Democrats? Is he really any different ideologically than the rest of these left-wing candidates who are populating this field right now?
No, I think you're right. I think you hit it right on the head. He's the flavor of the day, and we're going to see more of this. I like how they're trying to spin him as sort of the Andy Griffith type show, traditional values guy when he's married to a man. And, during the whole pre-Easter season, it was Pete got up early and went to church, and Pete gave up coffee for Lent. And it's like, you are a progressive, you are leading an alternative lifestyle. It's still an alternative lifestyle. Yeah, they're trying to spin it as he's the new normal or something. And this is just something progressives like to do. It scratches an itch for them. And I think that's what Pete is doing right now. He's scratching an itch for them that means nothing to the rest of the country, whether you like him or not. That is not what people care about. People want to know what you are going to do to make this country better. And like you said, when you look into what this guy is really about, he's not different at all from the rest of these Democrats on his positions. He also has some interesting skeletons in his closet. A racial problem with the police department. He got rid of the first black chief of police in South Bend, and there was a very big controversy over it. Apparently, he handled it very poorly by his own admission, and that may come back to haunt him because it's all about identity politics with the Democrats. So if he has some of the black voters being upset about that, then that goes against him. So right now, I think, he's the flavor of the day. But like with Beto, they're going to find out more about him, and he's not going to be this figure that they see him as right now.
Tim, I'm going to make a baseball analogy. As a special present for you, I'm going to make a baseball analogy, Tim. There are many, many high school pitchers that can be described as phenoms in their local area, right? But there's a reason why they don't all get a starting role in the major leagues the next day, because they have to prove themselves capable of performance at a higher level. Pete Buttigieg, the most people who have ever voted for him in an election was the most recent mayoral election of South Bend, Indiana, where 8,500 people cast their vote for him. That's the maximum ever.
But Scott, Donald Trump had never received a single vote from a single voter before he was elected to the most powerful position in the world.
I think more people called in to cast your vote for who should get fired on The Apprentice than for a Mayor Pete election before.
Scott, are you not impressed by the fact that Pete Buttigieg gave up coffee for Lent?
Oh, man. Yeah, I appreciate his commitment to the Lenten season, Tim. A good president, I don't know that makes.
Okay, that's about all the fun we're allowed to have on this inaugural edition of the Liberty Nation TV Election 2020 Roundtable. We'll be back with you every week with often this same cast of characters, and we'll be rotating Liberty Nation authors through this roundtable in the 19 months leading up to the November 2020 election. I'm Tim Donner. Thanks for joining us.